And it's amazing when you write things out, you can actually still get healing and you can actually still get deliverance of things. And I want to give God all glory, honor, and praise for such a time as this. It's an honor to come and speak tonight. My life has been a miracle that God has had his hand on me. And it's never been an easy road to walk. Being the age 30 and looking back at the amazing things that I'm still alive today because of all the tests and trials and tribulations that I have faced. And it's some storms that I have created myself. Some storms that generations before me had already did. At the age of 5, I was severely abused by someone in school. It became the headline news of the county. And I was kept at home for months until the court trial was over. Because literally, I'm going to go into a little bit of detail of it because I had to stay at home because it was such a county thing. Everybody was like, what's wrong with Kim? You know, what happened with it? You know, we heard this and we heard that. And you know how people talk and people twist things. And so the only protection that my parents could do at that time was keep me at home. And so it was probably a couple of months before we went through the trial. It's a very hard process at age 5 to go through a trial and not even realize, you know, that what happened to you was wrong. But at the same time, you don't understand why you're standing in court. You don't understand why that you're facing a judge. You don't understand why that you have to look at this person that did this awful thing to you. But at a young age, I took on the role of my brother. I had the mom for my brother. Although at my childhood, I endured mental abuse through my father, through my mother, through my family. It's very hard to go through abuse at home and go to church, and in the church, people not even realize that you're hurting. They see that you're acting out, but they want to say that you're depressed or you're bipolar or you're this or you're that, and they want to try to label you, but yet there's something at home going on. There's something inside the home that's going on that they're not recognizing. And so that's one thing, we need to realize as, adults and leaders, that when something is out of place and something's out of character, something's going on. And we need to go to that person and say, hey, what's going on? Because there is, there's something going on. We don't know what it is, but we need to start going into them and finding out what's going on because something's going on. At the age of 14, I was sent to stay with my bus driver as my parents worked. I began to run away, and when they found me, I was sent to a mental institution. I was there for over 60 days. They had to go, and then I had to go outpatient, missing school for over 6 months. This is a period of time where the abuse went from a mental to a physical abuse with my father. It got so bad that I planned to run away again, but with a much older man that I actually met at the mental institution. We actually was on the internet together. And, I didn't have any other outlets. I didn't have anybody to go to and say, hey, I'm being abused. I didn't even know how to go to anybody because I'm being sent to a mental institution. And I'm the one that is the victim in the situation. And they're not even recognizing what's going on. And so I met the guy at the mental institution, and the doctors told me that I was bipolar, I was depressed, and they put me on medicines. When my parents found out that my computer that I was using, that I was going to run away, that we actually took the man to court, my parents did. And then at the age of 15, I was sent to live in South Carolina with my grandparents. It was a whole new world to me because it was another state, another school, and I knew nobody. I did good for a few months till I met a guy and fell in love with him because I just wanted to be loved. I didn't have that fatherly love, and I didn't have that love at home at all. My whole world, I grew up feeling not loved, not wanted, almost as if I was a problem standing in my parents' way. I was always different from my brother. Me and my brother were treated different. I would be accused of everything, where my brother literally was like, he never got in trouble. He never had to go through anything. He was always the kid that was smart. He was always the kid that, he didn't do anything wrong. It was always my fault. And I ended up losing my virginity to the guy I was dating. And shortly after, I found some powder in his room. And when he told me he dealt and sold drugs, he and I began to do drugs. And Actually, we started delivering them and being dealers. Some big, well-known state runners at the age of 16, I was running with some big people. And when you're running with big people, you got to be quiet. You got to know what you're doing because you're going to lose your life. And these were gang people. These were people that you don't want to come across because they'll shoot you. There were times that I was fearful. I was going to be shot, raped, or even snatched to be sold, to be dealt with some big known people to state. I didn't know if I was even going to be a slave at that point. Then went after 3 years till my aunt back in Georgia became ill with cancer. I made the decision after having surgery to move home and take care of her. They had given my aunt 6 months to live, and me and my aunt were very close. She was like an angel. She never said anything wrong. She never did anything wrong. Very close to her. My aunt fought a good fight for 6 months and was called home to be with the Lord. I was in the room and watched her take her last breath at the age of 18. I began to blame God for making her suffer, knowing His word tells us in 1 Peter 5:10, and after you have suffered a little while, the God of all grace, who has called you to His eternal glory in Christ, will Himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you. And in 2 Corinthians 5:8, it tells us, we are confident, I say, and would prefer to be away from the body and at home with the Lord. If I would have known those two scriptures, I could have applied that to my life when my aunt died. But I didn't know the scriptures and I didn't know the words, so the only thing that I knew to go back to was drugs. The only thing I knew to go back to was the streets. The only thing I could apply. That's the only thing I had at that point. I truly believe if I would have known and understood this, my life would have turned a different way after she passed. After she passed, I was still 18 and started running with the wrong crowd again, this time in Georgia. This time I went all out, not caring at all about life. Started using meth, crystals, snorting it, doing whatever I could do at this point just to numb the pain. I used ecstasy and was drinking. I was given a daybreak drug at a club and with people I actually knew and ran with. And I thought that I was protected by them. You really think you're protected by the people that, you sell drugs and stuff, but you're really not. They just want what they can get out of you. I was raped that night because I woke up and there was a guy raping me and it was in the morning. I remember nothing, not even from the club, just waking up, being raped and hurting internally. You would think at that point I would have stopped, but I didn't. I didn't realize till later on in life the wounds that were in her was affecting my life because I needed healing. I was looking and searching for something. I just didn't know what. And it's so hard when you're searching for something and you don't even know what you're searching for. You go out there and you do this and you do that, or you buy this, or you talk to this person, but yet you just don't know. But there's something that you're searching for. I ran off 2 weeks on a binge where nobody knew where I was or even if I was alive. I got in a truck with a guy I never met, and he lost control on the dirt road. We hit a tree head on my side. I was doped up for days, and I had a wine cooler in my hand. The impact, because I wasn't wearing my seatbelt, was life-threatening. I broke the windshield with my head. I broke the back glass and my head was bleeding. I was so messed up, he took me to a hotel and left me in fear the cops would blood test us or even make him do a breathalyzer. So we basically ran, from this rape because we knew that we had drugs in our system. We knew that we had alcohol in our system and that we knew that we had what we had in the truck. So he took me there. I ended up getting away back to my car, and I drove to my dad's work 5 miles because I couldn't make it no longer. He took me to the ER, and I had a broke nose, my teeth were broke, my left eye bone was broke, and with a concussion. After my body healed up, I still went back to the streets. I began to deal drugs again and even supply family members. And at this point, my life completely changed. I then began to date a guy that I was dancing at a club. We dated for years when I found out I was pregnant. He left me and he said the child was not his because the doctor said he couldn't have kids at a young age. I got clean and found out that I was at a high-risk pregnancy. I ended up having my precious angel, Kimberly Loftin McDonald, at 7 months. She was 4 pounds, 11 ounces, and 19 inches long. Praise God that she was healthy in spite of being early. And the reason she was early is because there were still, when I was pregnant, there were still drugs in my system, which created where she could not actually grow a certain amount. So they actually had to induce me because at 7 months, she stopped growing completely. But her lungs were able to, she was able to breathe, so they were able to, allow me to give birth to her. The doctor sent me home on pain pills and anxiety pills. I was messing around with them before I got pregnant, like selling them, etc. But I found a new high in pain pills. I began using around 30 to 40 a day to try to catch that first high. It was around $250 a day. I have it with Lortabs, Percocets, anything like that. I began to do things for drugs I thought I would never do. Sexual acts to get my pills and pay for the pain pills and actually paid for the clinic. I would sell my medication, the Lortabs, the Oxycontin, the oxycodone, and the methadone. Even while my daughter was around at 6 months, her father's mother OD'd. She was in ICU, and I went to go see her thinking that would never happen to me, that I had it under control, and she actually passed that night. She was too far gone. She had overdosed on methadone. Until one day I ended up with my first OD and was sent to a hospital. I was there for 5 days when I contacted Sky's Haven with Robin and Pastor Kenny. And at this time, Keely was still around, and I had custody of her. I decided to go to Toccoa to better my life and my daughter's. Because if you all know, when you go, if you're not strong enough to go back into the same area or the same places, then you need to get out of that area because you're going to be drawn back into it because you don't have that strength yet to go back into that area because it's going to draw you straight back to where you were, straight back to where you don't want to be, but yet you're still going to be drawn back. I decided to go, Sky's Haven was safe. It was a safe haven for me. It was a new journey to live life clean and sober. I was there about 2 months when my grandparents moved a few houses up, and I decided to move in with them, but still be a part of the daily program and with my daughter to be able to come to Toccoa to live with me again. Pastor Kenny and Robin were like a mother and a father to me. They poured into my life with love, tough love, compassion, and most of all, imparted and impacted my life forever with Jesus Christ. I was a tough one. That walls that had to be broken, walls that had to come down because I had so many walls up and I put them through some stuff. I really did. I'm going to tell you, I put them through it. But those walls simply came down because the love they showed. The love that even the people that were in contact with Sky's Haven, it was Jesus Christ's love that drew me and built me. They were patient and kind to slowly break the walls. They had that tough love on me. And then we would also go to if you were in the program, we had to go to Celebrate Recovery. And I went to Celebrate Recovery at Christ Fellowship. And at first, I didn't apply what was in the books and the steps. You can write things and you can do things and you can say things without even applying them. So when I went in there at first, I didn't do all that, and I was not getting what I needed because it's not the program that's going to save you, deliver, or set you free. It's the things within the book that you apply the Word of God to your life that's going to set you free. Because a lot of times people come into Celebrate Recovery and come into places and things like that thinking, this is going to work. But see, you got to work at what you want. And you can't sit there and sit in these chairs and think, okay, it's done. Because it's not going to fall in your lap. Just like we were talking earlier, it's not going to fall in your lap. I wanted it to fall in my lap. I did not want to sit there and do the work in the book. I said, I'll sit here and write down the steps. I'll do what my sponsor says and stuff like that. And it messed me up. It messed me slap up. I had my own apartment. Mario knows this. I worked my butt off. I had my own apartment. I had my daughter. I had everything. I ended up relapsing because of the simple fact I didn't apply those things. I didn't call my sponsor at CR. I didn't call my leaders and say, hey, I'm struggling. Hey, I need prayer. Hey, can somebody please come out here and get me and rescue me from whatever's going on? Because I thought I had it under control when I didn't. When you think you got it under control, you're in trouble. You need to realize that's when you need to come in this place and tell somebody, because they're not going to judge. Your leaders are here to help you and not judge you. Your leaders are here to help build and impact you, not sit there and tear you down. They want the best for you. But my best advice is work the book. Apply the steps. It's not easy. I'm telling you. When you work them steps, you're going to find things inside of you, inner wounds that you're going to find and you didn't even realize that you had, and it's going to hurt. You're going to cry. You're going to be angry. You're going to want to hit the wall. You are going to want to go ballistic. But when you take the Word of God and you apply it, and what I say by apply it, walk in it. You need to walk in it. Because it's not easy walking by faith. But see, you know what? We walk by faith and not by sight. And when I was in CR, I actually became a leader. Even during my relapse, because I thought, I'm good. I'm not going to say anything. I was going to play it. But see, you can't play God.
No, that's right.
You can't, and God will expose your darkness. God will expose that thing. So I was sent out. I realized, I said, I can't do it anymore. Because see, I thought the program was going to deliver me. I did. I said, okay, if I stay in this group, if I do this, if I do that, I'll be delivered. The devil is a lie.
Come on.
It's not the program.
Come on.
And you know what? So many times the enemy will use fear to keep you from your destiny.
Yes.
The enemy will come at you and sit here and do this and do that because he knows that you're this close to having what you need, whether it's healing of inner wounds, deliverance, or whatever it is. Because it could be depression, it could be anxiety, it could be bipolar, it could be all this. Let me tell you, at the age of 22, when I left Skies Haven and I went to Florida, I was on so much medication. But you know what? I haven't been on any medications for bipolar, depression, or anxiety for 6 years.
Amen.
Because God said, do you have the faith to sit here and pour it in the toilet? And I said, God, I don't know about all this. Pouring it, But you know what? My faith was that if I did what God told me to do, I would be delivered.
That's right.
Because I was tired of taking so much. You know how much medicine I took? It was a handful. And it was like, I was just like, okay, whatever. I didn't care about anything at that point. I really wasn't living because I wasn't free from it. So I was just being in an operation of medication. Let's see. So my advice for Celebrate Recovery, all of your leaders, if you're struggling with something, go to your leaders automatically. If it's midnight, I can promise you they'll answer your phone. They'll answer their phones. Because they care that much about you. They care that much about your recovery and your life. They don't want you to go back out there and do the same thing that ended up in here. This Celebrate Recovery is not about just drugs. It's not about just alcohol. It's about life. Because we're all messed up somewhere or another.
Yes, that's right.
I mean, honestly, we all have a struggle. We all have something that we literally say, God, take this from me.
Yes.
But yet God won't take it because, see, we got a thorn in our flesh. Truth. And see, we got to follow God in order to get delivered. We've got to be able, we all struggle. So why do we have division? That's the thing. Because the enemy will come in like a flood, but you got to allow God to set that standard. Yeah. You've got to be able to know who you are in God and who to go to. Because this program is not built for you to not be impacted, for you not to be changed. This program is to help you operate in those things that is in God's Word. To be able to teach you the ways and the thoughts of the Lord. How to be able to operate in who you are. Because God called every single one of you. And your deliverance is in His hands. And I thank God for Celebrate Recovery, because if it was not for Celebrate Recovery, I wouldn't be here today. I'd be on the streets. God has brought me back to the same place that I did on my 8 streets. Literally. And you know what? I don't have a desire to go back. Actually, the only desire that I have, I want to go back to the streets to minister.
Amen.
I want to go tell the same people that I ran with what God has done in my life. And I thank God for what He's done. I relapsed on pills and decided to go to Florida to a program for the next year. I was in and out of programs and could not figure out why they never worked for me. It seemed like they worked for everybody else but me. I lost custody of my daughter at this time. It took me a year to figure out what blocked my sobriety. I needed healing, and no program could deliver me. God was the only one who could deliver and set me free from His word. John 8:36 tells us, who the Son sets free, you will be free indeed. I had to be willing to give up my old ways to become completely healed, delivered, and set free.
Amen.
I was scared of change, but when fear left, transformation began to take place. When I held my peace, my mindset began to change. Then 2 years ago, I was tested. And when I say I was tested, it was a test. Was I going to make it? Was I going to break? Was I going to stand, or was I going to fall? I lost the very man who stood by me, my pop and my grandfather. I thought about my life, but God's joy was my strength. He was the wind beneath my wings. I was asked to do the most hardest, but yet the most honor that I could ever do in my life. I was asked to minister His homegoing service. Back up. My life has changed because I have changed to chase after my dreams and goals. At the 3 years age, 3 years ago, I was ordained as an evangelist and began to start traveling to preach the word of the Lord. I have seen amazing ways of the Lord to set the captives free, heal from cancer, wheelchairs, people experiences that eyes and ears opened. When I ministered His homegoing, it was God's strength who got me through, because this is a man they know, but you guys have met him. And this was a father figure. This was a guy that spoke into my life. This was a man that I could go to at any time and just crawl in his lap and cry. Crawl in his lap and he'll say, baby, it's okay. God's got you. God's got you. He's not, when you have somebody in your life like a father die, even though you have a father, it's different. Your life has changed. I felt like when he died, I felt like I died at that point. But see, I couldn't quit because I had a daughter. I couldn't quit because I had my grandmother. They literally in one day, and God bless them for it, because I called them up. And I said, I need to move my grandparents' stuff down to my house. I said, Papa's not going to make it. And I already knew that he was transitioning. They helped me move all their stuff into a U-Haul down into my house. And I thank God for them. Because when you call, I'm telling you, when you call your leaders, if they got to, they'll in the vehicle and they'll come after you. They'll come get you. They'll come minister to you. Let's see. And I am now, the past 3 years, I've been in home health care, and I'm about to go to school for my CNA license in the fall. For years, I didn't speak to my family. I was homeless, going place to place. But God is bringing forth what the locust has stole from me, door to door and step by step, double for my trouble. No matter what, stay faithful to the Lord, and He will give you favor, prosperity, and make ways no man can. He will keep you. Literally, God will do things in your life that you never thought that He would do. If you surrender, you have faith, and you stand on His word. You can't go back to the same areas. You can't go back to the same people. You got to change everything about you. And at first, change is scary. Change is something we don't want to do. We want order. We want to know what's going on. But sometimes we don't need to know what's going on. We don't. Because it's not even about us. And if it was not for God, I'm telling you, everything I've gone through, I shouldn't be standing here today. The times that my life could have been taken on the streets. The times that I OD'd and He kept me. The times that I was on Chicago streets. And you talking about gangs, guns, violence, and God kept me. He will keep you in the midst of your darkness, even as the light shines. Because it's protection. He protects His children. And I thank God that He's given me life, because that's the only way I have life, is to go to Him in prayer. Is to go to Him in His presence. Go to Him in ways in His word that He tells us to. Because see, we can go to people and they can speak into our lives. But what good is it if you don't work it? What good is it if you don't pull it up? What good is it if you don't break the generational curses and the chains? It's hard. As many generational curses that I have had to break from my family, it has been hell. That's just straight up. But you know what? It's worth it when you see a change. It's worth it when you see transformation. And all it is the anointing breaking the yokes. Because I see the transformation within my family slowly. Family ain't easy to minister to. That's the last people I'd rather minister to. I mean, honestly, I'm true. I mean, because they don't listen. But I want to encourage you tonight. All of those that know that everybody in this room, if you look around, we're struggling with something. You know, don't be shameful of it. I'm not ashamed, because I would rather have real talk than bull.
Amen.
That's just me. Come to me in real talk. Let's get down to the root of the issue and pull the root up. Let's take the root out, so therefore God can plant a seed. Because it's about planting seeds. It's about transformation and seeing lives change. It's not about just sitting here and listening and just being here because you got to be here. If you got to be here, God put you here for a reason. You might as well know that God planted you here. So if God planted you here, you can't leave. You ain't going nowhere. You can try to not come. You can, but guess what? It'll catch up to you.
Come on.
You better know that it will catch up to you. And when it catches up to you, it's fire. And you don't want the fire. Because when you go through the fire, you come out golden. But do you really want to go through the fire? I don't. I'm tired of fires. I want to see the revival fire.
Yes.
That's what I want to see. Because what I seen in Florida was amazing. When you see eyes opened